Ladies and gentlemen, it is just 2 more days before the long-awaited UFC 316, and it is also 2 more days until it is Joshua Van fight day, boys. Let's get a round of applause. Joshua Van fight day, man. It's going to be a certified banger of a card when Joshua Van is fighting in the featured prelim. I'm so excited for this card. There's a couple fights that the prelims are actually pretty good. The prelims, this whole card as a whole doesn't hold a lot of name value, but if you look at all the fights on paper, they are just such good fights. I mean, we'll start off looking at the prelims. We have Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. Joshua Van is one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. He's so good. He's like a mini Max Holloway. He fights like he's a veteran. I've talked about this so many times, but he's such a technical, fun fighter. Volume. He's gonna overwhelm you with volume. I don't know if he can finish Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva, dude, this kid was riding a 4-fight winning streak before he ran into Manel Kape his last fight, and I really do like both of these guys. But I think Joshua Van just has the ability to get it done. I'm excited for this fight. We also have Azamat Murzakanov taking on Brenton Ribeiro. Sergey Spivak taking on Waldo Acosta-Cortez. We have Johnny Walker, who is supposed to fight Colleen Williams versus Andres Gustafsson. And it's going to be a banger of a card, dude. Quillen Southkill, that kid, he's taking on Yalnal Ashmos. The Quillen Southkill, if you don't know who Quillen Southkill is, he's the guy who basically absolutely chinned the Indian Ansan Jubilee. It was a pretty sad ending for Ansan Jubilee. The Indian kid, like the first ever UFC Indian fighter, yeah, he got chinned like the first 19 seconds. But let's talk about this card, man, because I'm excited for UFC 316 after last week's absolute disaster. Macy Barber pulling out of the main event like just 2 minutes before because of having a seizure. But let's talk about it, dude, because in the first fight of the night, we have Vincente Luque taking on Kevin Holland, man, and this is a really fun fight. I'd say, for me, this is going to be my fight of the night. Vincente Luque, he's the thumbnail of this video, and he is the Darce Choke King. He's coming off an upset win a couple months ago against, I forgot the kid's name, Garimbo at UFC 310. That was a fun fight, and I do think this fight's going to be just as fun. I said it was going to be fight of the night. I'm going to stick to that, dude. This is going to be submission frenzy. Submission frenzy, dude. Both of these guys are going to be throwing up submissions every chance they get, and it's going to be very entertaining because we're going to see what version of Kevin Holland we're going to get. Are we going to get the iconic trailblazer Kevin Holland that we see every once in a while? He makes a little return. We saw it in 2020 in his prime. And in his last fight, he kind of made a little bit of a return against Gunnar Nelson. Or are we going to see the Kevin Holland who's just here for money? Like the same one who cashed in for a check against RDR, Renner de Ritter. And I hope we don't get that Kevin Holland, because when Kevin Holland's on his game, the kid's actually pretty good. I don't know. I'm kind of favoring Kevin Holland in this fight. I think this is the closest fight of the night. I do believe Kevin Holland does have the power advantage, especially going against someone like Vincente Luque, who definitely has had some chin problems in his past. He had a brain aneurysm a couple years back. So that might cost him against Kevin Holland. I do think that Kevin Holland is going to be able to get this done. I think Kevin Holland's a very good fighter when he actually wants to do it. And obviously this fight can go 50-50, but I'm going to stick with Kevin Holland, dude. The trailblazer, he's going to get it done, hopefully. The next fight we do have, it is Mario Batista, a genuine terrorist of the sport, taking on Patchy Mix, man. And I'm going to be honest, dude. It's always exciting when we see these Bellator fighters come into the UFC and have their debut fight. It's a little bit of an interesting, and we're interested in them. We're going to see what they can do in the UFC. Can they actually make an impact, or are they going to be a bust? We've seen it at UFC 314 with Patricio Pitbull. We've seen it with Michael Chandler. We've seen it with Kayla Harrison in the past. And I do think this is going to be one of those fun fights. Patchy Mix, I'm hearing a lot of things about this kid striking. I'm not really seeing that. I've went back, I've rewatched some Bellator fights, Patchy Mix obviously, and his striking is just kind of overrated. I've seen a lot of people saying that it's developing. Oh, bro, his striking's getting better, and when it does get better, it's going to be a real problem. But when I look at Patchy Mix's striking, I just see a bunch of generic 1-2s. He's nothing special. His leg kicks, I get the kid's a little lengthy, so that his leg kicks might be nice. I didn't really pay attention to that. But I don't think Patchy Mix striking is as good as a lot of people are saying. Obviously, his grappling is elite, and Mario Batista does have some good grappling as well. We've seen him. He was able to smudge Jose Aldo against a cage for like 5 minutes. But I'm still going to go with Patchy Mix, dude. I would like to say Mario Batista can pull this off, because you look at it on paper, this is not that bad of a matchup for Mario Batista, you know. If anything, this is a bad matchup for Patchy Mix, but Patchy Mix does have all the hype, and I'm going to stick with him, dude. Mario Batista can definitely pull this off. If Mario Batista does pull this off, don't be surprised, dude. It'll be like a split decision. I hope Patchy Mix can go in there and submit him like round 2. That'll be my prediction, because if Patchy Mix does do that, then his hype is going to be off the chart, dude, and this guy could get a title shot off this win if his hype is really that high. Who knows, man? The next fight we're going to be looking at is the featured fight of the night, Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Bodybags Pyfer. And if this was a 5-round fight, I'm going to be honest, guys, I would probably favor Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum, he's very good. You know, Kelvin Gastelum is a marauder. Listen, kid. And he's kind of fat, though. That might be a problem. But if this was 5 rounds, I would favor Gastelum. But I don't know, man. You know, Joe Pyfer, he kind of gassed in that fight against Jack Hermanson. And Gastelum's gas tank, it's pretty good, man. I mean, Gastelum is a pretty hard matchup for Joe Pyfer as well. I'm realizing this just now. But obviously, this is going to be interesting. Joe Pyfer has a 100% finish rate. So Kelvin Gastelum has only ever been finished 3 times, and they were all submissions. So it's going to be interesting. Can the 100% finish rate finish the guy who's never been knocked out? Very interesting fight we have here. And obviously, Joe Pyfer, he's always put it on good fights, as well as Kelvin Gastelum, who has a fight in the Hall of Fame against Israel Adesanya. Hey, Adesanya, come to daddy. So that would be a good fight, but I'm still just going to stick with Joe Pyfer, dude. I'm not going to try to pick any risky underdogs here because, you know, I have a pretty big underdog pick in the main event. So we're going to keep it calm for the rest of the card. But Joe Pyfer giving me him by first round TKO. I can just see Kelvin Gastelum's body just crumbled up in the corner. I know he's ever been knocked out officially, but I can envision that. So that's my prediction. The next fight we're going to be talking about, listen, kid, this is a banger of a fight. Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison for the Women's Bantamweight Championship. I am excited for this fight. The hype, the build-up, you know, it's not a lot of times where you see people excited about women's MMA fights in general, but this time, I'm actually decently hyped. You know, Juliana Pena, she knows how to hype up a fight. We've seen these interviews she's been doing. She's been calling Kayla Harrison names, and she's been on a roll. Juliana Pena's trash talk is actually really good. She has really good trash talk. And this is pretty much the girl version of Dricus du Plessis versus Hamzat Chimaev, dude. We have the fighter who just closes his eyes when he punches, Dricus du Plessis, similar to Juliana Pena. And we have Kayla Harrison, the very dominant grappler, the wrestler who's going to take you down and punish you there. So, yeah, this is a female Dricus du Plessis versus Hamzat Chimaev. But I'm not going to overthink this one. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to say, bro, Juliana Pena, she's going to fluke a head kick over Kayla Harrison, man. I'm not going to be a hardcore and say that Kayla Harrison, man, she's going to submit her either. I think this is just going to be a scrappy women's MMA fight. It's one of those decisions similar to what we saw at UFC 315, Manon Fiorot versus Valentina Shevchenko, a similar fight to that. Kayla Harrison's going to get it done, dude. Kayla Harrison, I love these types of fights. I'm going to go with her. I don't think she's going to miss this opportunity to become like one of the greatest women's fighters of all time. That might be a hot take, but what Kayla Harrison's done in other companies is pretty crazy. So, the UFC 316 press conference has just started, so I'm going to go watch that, and then I'll get back to you guys for the main event. The UFC 316 press conference has just wrapped up, and I want to talk about it. I have a couple points I want to touch on. If you really care enough to see my prediction on the main event, Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili, go check out my video I made yesterday. It's a full 10-minute breakdown, so I actually did a full evaluation on that fight. But let's talk about the press conference. The first thing I want to talk about is that Kevin Holland is so unlikable now, man. I mean, it was okay a couple years ago when this kid was fighting every other week. He was super active, and he just was fun on the mic. But now he's still active, but he's a hater, dude. He's very unlikable. He called out Colby Covington. He spoke for Sean O'Malley when Sean O'Malley was saying he had a bad night. And I'm just not that high on Kevin Holland anymore. He's pretty hateable, dude. I mean, he was trash talking Bilal Muhammad. Kevin Holland can't even string together 2 good wins before he gets knocked out, dude. I don't really like Kevin Holland as much as I used to, dude. Another thing I want to talk about is that I feel genuinely bad for Mario Batista, dude. This kid, he was having a solid he was on a solid win streak before he ran into Jose Aldo. He beat Jose Aldo, and don't get me wrong, I hate Mario Batista as much as the next guy. The kid's a genuine terrorist of the sport, but I kind of feel bad for him in some instances. Every time this kid's on the mic, he just looks so depressed. He also looks like he's 50 years old. Mario Batista looks like he has a wife and kids, and grandkids even, waiting at home for him. The next thing I want to talk about is that Juliana Pena's trash talk is actually pretty good, dude. She actually has pretty good trash talk. She's so slick with her words. I don't mean to glaze, but Juliana Pena, she gets to, if I was Kayla Harrison, she would have got to me a long time ago, dude. She's annoying. She looks like a horse. Super annoying, super mean. The next thing I want to talk about is Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix said he was looking past Mario Batista, and I kind of felt a little bit of an ego coming from Patchy Mix. You know, he was talking a lot of trash throughout the whole press conference, and he said if he wins, he will get the title shot, which I think is a bold claim. You know, it's definitely a possibility considering the lack of contenders at bantamweight at the moment, but I don't think the UFC will give him a title shot unless he like flatlines Mario Batista, which, like I said earlier in the video, I don't think is happening. He's not going to get a title shot. And the final thing that I want to talk about is just about the Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison fight in general. This fight is actually entertaining. It's actually going to be a good fight, man. I mean, Kayla Harrison said this. You've lost more fights than I've lost rounds in MMA. That is low-key a tough line, and I'm excited for this fight, man. I am super excited for this fight. The beef, they're not going to touch gloves, dude. These women are going to come and scrap. I guarantee you this is going to be a good fight. It's not going to be your typical women's MMA fight. And yeah, man, that's going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I'll see you guys in the next one. MMA, I will post out.